What's up everyone, and today I'm very happy to announce that I'm going to be giving you Omi's top 20 Sega Genesis games of all time. Now before we proceed, I do have to mention the criteria. Number 1, there will be no sports games. I do plan to cover this on a separate video, so stay tuned guys if I haven't covered your game yet. Also, these have to be games that I genuinely play myself, games that honestly when I'm not recording videos or making content, these are games that I just go to. These are my go-to games that I love personally. And after all, this is Omi's list. And with that being said guys, please let me know in the comment section which games am I missing, which games do I have to play, because believe it or not, I haven't played every single Genesis game that has ever been created. So with all those things in mind guys, let's get going with Omi's top 20 Sega Genesis games of all time. Now before we proceed, I do want to talk about the honorable mentions. These are games that are fantastic but didn't quite make this list. So yeah, let's check them out. Guys, one final thing I have to mention is that there's only going to be one game per series. So for example, Streets of Rage 3 will represent all of Streets of Rage and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 will represent all of Sonic. I did this in order to avoid redundancy. Without further ado, let's get the final 20 started. Coming in at number 20 is a game beloved by many and certainly by me. Of course, Ghouls and Ghosts. What a fantastic game guys. Let's get into some of this gameplay here. What makes this game so special and why did it make my top 20 list? Well, you gotta go back in time and remember that this was an arcade game converted to a home console. Now at that time, and I mentioned this before in other videos, the arcade was way superior to the home console. This game was not only converted to a home console, but it was converted in-house by Sega themselves, which is a testament to how great of a job that they did. One of the things that's great about this game, and this is based upon the arcade game, is that you have the option to shoot diagonally. Now, this option is done automatically, but you can go to the options menu and deselect it. I don't know why you would want to do that, because this game is like a sequel to part 1, which is just regular Ghosts and Goblins. I don't know why you would want to do that, but see, you can shoot north and south, and that is huge. Being able to do that is a big gameplay element that just enhances the gameplay in my opinion, and has made this, this game has stood the test of time. It's one of those all-time greats. Now and it's as if this first level, they do that intentionally with those vultures, because they want you to utilize that new gameplay element, shooting diagonally. It makes such a big difference. Let's soak in some of the music guys. This atmosphere, very eerie, very dark, Halloween-like atmosphere. This is an all-time classic. Let's soak it in, some of this gameplay, some of this music. But yeah, when I think about the greats on the Sega Genesis, you have to consider Ghouls and Ghosts. This game, again, was programmed in-house, similar to Strider, another Capcom game. And this first stage is a great example of why this game has stood the test of time and why it's fantastic. Look at those huge sprites. This is what we wanted as kids. We wanted this kind of gameplay as kids. You know, we wanted that arcade experience, and we finally got it with the Sega Genesis. Look at those beautiful sprites. And of course, I just beat the first level. Ghouls and Ghosts, one of the all-time greats on the Sega Genesis. Yes, guys, Toe Jam and Earl does in fact come in at 19. And honestly, depending on you, depending on how dear this game is to your heart, it could go even, you know, at a higher ranking. But for me, I'm pretty happy with 19. Okay, so the cool thing about this game, you can pick 1 player, 2 player. I'm gonna go with 1. I'm gonna go with Toe Jam. And also, this is really where the bread and butter of this game is. You have that first option there, which is what I recommend you do. Random World, which is basically a roguelike game, and I'll be getting into that. Or you could also play as a fixed world, where the world will be just pretty much known to you. The more you play it, you'll know where all the presents are, which is, by the way, what you're trying to get in this game. And all the presents are unique themselves. You don't know what you're gonna get. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. This game, in a lot of ways, is so unique because you really don't know what you're gonna get. Whether it's the presents, whether it's the levels, you know, this is such a great game. Now, by roguelike, what I mean by that is that, just like I stated a little bit earlier, when you decide to play that game, that mode, you basically, all the presents, all the level layouts, all the enemies are going to be randomly placed. For this year, when this game came out, early 90s, I can't tell you how unique that was. Nowadays, you have games that are roguelike, which, you know, have random levels and stuff and enemies. But for this time, see, so I'm picking up presents. You can pick up food. I guess that was old cabbage. She doesn't like old cabbage. You don't want to pick that one up either. But see, I've never played this level before because it's all unique to me. You're trying to avoid enemies. You're trying to get presents, and you basically, you know, some of these presents you start with, but the other ones you have to totally figure out what's in there. You don't know what's in there. You're taking a chance. So it turns out that I just got like a level up. I think I leveled up or something. Yeah, because my health went up. And so I got promoted from being a wiener to a doofus. And that's exactly what this game's about. It's so unique, so charming, so funny. Let's see if I can get some kind of an enemy here in front of me so I can show you some of the gameplay. There it is, that red devil. The enemies do get, you know, gradually harder. I am barely just on the second stage. And you can fall down, by the way. You can fall down back to the first stage. You don't want to do that. Toe Jam and Earl, you know, the random enemies, the random presence, the uniqueness of the game itself, the hip-hop vibes. Let's check out some of those vibes. Now, one of the things, I didn't do it, but with these devils, with these red devils, like if they're sleeping, which you'll find them sleeping, you can actually, you know, go slowly, sneak past them. But unfortunately, you know, they're already awake, so I can't, that's not an option. The other thing is you have a map, so you want to check out your map. Those purple boxes, once you discover different parts of the map, they're going to disappear. Guys, Toe Jam and Earl as a whole, as a package, so incredibly unique, so charming. Guys, Toe Jam and Earl, absolutely one of the greats for the Sega Genesis, and personally, I absolutely love and adore this game. Oh yeah. Just blew my socks off as a kid, and it still does. So yeah, let's get some RoboCop vs. Terminator. The reason that it's ranked where it's at is because it's a little bit difficult, it's a little bit tedious towards the end, but nevertheless, don't get it twisted. This game is fantastic. in a lot of ways super gory, super challenging, super funny. You get weapons. I've always loved how fluid and how, that's the thing about the Sega Genesis. Say what you want to say about a lot of things, right? But man, that the graphics are dithered, whatever you want to say. But when it comes to the gameplay, this is a prime example of blast processing at its finest, guys. Really, man, the fluidity, how smooth the game plays, it has remarkable controls, and it's like I said, I keep saying it, but it's very, very gory. When you shoot those guys through the windows, it is fantastic. The music is not bad either. I like it, but like I said, it ranks a little bit lower because the difficulty does get a little bit harder towards the end, and the last boss is, oh my goodness, I remember getting to him with like 50 lives. Now again, I was like a teenager when I last played it, like really played it, and I took like 50 lives with me and he still killed me. So yeah, towards the end, that's why the game loses a little bit of points. I think some of the, especially the final boss. Like if the final boss wasn't so tedious, it wouldn't be such a bad game. But other than that, as a whole package, you get some awesome weapons, by the way, like this awesome weapon that actually follows wherever you're directing it to go. And look at the gore. It's incredible. This game is rated R for really good. Guys, I can't say enough things about RoboCop vs. Terminator. The story, I guess you're trying to stop the world from Terminators. It's not that deep in story. I think it might be based on a comic book, but my goodness, guys, if you never played RoboCop vs. Terminator, this is one of the greats for the Sega Genesis. I do have it ranked number 17. It could easily go higher, but I'm pretty happy with that choice. Let me know in the comment section if you ever played this game, what you think about it. Guys, for me, one of my all-time greats. RoboCop vs. Terminator. Rated R for really good. Coming in at the number 17 spot is a game that I absolutely love. It's challenging, it's colorful, it has amazing graphics, some of the greatest graphics on the Sega Genesis, truly pushing the hardware to its limits. And the soundtrack, composed by Jesper Kyd, legendary. You can pick Batman or Robin. I'm gonna go with, of course, the Bat, although I do love Robin. But yeah, this game is basically based upon the cartoon series, so it has like obviously dark tone because again, people don't know this, but it was actually aimed towards adults, which is kind of weird, right? You wouldn't think that, but is this game weird? Absolutely not. This game is one of the greatest on the Sega Genesis. The gameplay, it's challenging. The music, Jesper Kyd, an amazing soundtrack. But when they nailed it, when the composer knew how to handle the sound chip, they composed masterpieces like this. This game is high action, high paced. You basically have your standard, it's kind of like a run and gun. I guess you can compare it to something like Gunstar Heroes. Something similar to that. Wouldn't be a bad comparison. But you also have like this charge attack. Like if at the top left you have like a bar, and you basically allow that bar to fill up, and it basically charges your weapon and you hit stronger. So basically, rather than hitting them 3 times, it would just take like 1 shot. Oh, see, it wasn't charged right there. And also, along with charging up your meter and getting stronger shots, you also have, obviously, you have health bars. You can pick up like that. I just picked up. Top left is also my health. You can keep an eye on that. This game is challenging. By no means is it easy, but it's high on my list because it's so. See, there it is. See how it was charged up? It kind of shoots it. It shoots it kind of like special. It looks kind of greenish. That's when it's charged up and have like more oomph to my shot. So you can also climb this. You can go up. You have your standard jump attack, just like that. Obviously you can go forward, and then you can also kind of like a kick attack that kind of aims lower. It aims down at the enemy. Oh shoot! See, I messed up. So on top of having your weapon recharge, you can also pick up different weapons. And if you keep picking the same weapon over and over, it basically makes your weapon like level 1, level 2, level 3. It gets stronger. See, this is the first boss fight. So yeah, the gameplay does change. Some of the most colorful, some of the most great graphics in the Sega Genesis. I'm not gonna show everything. The Adventures of Batman and Robin comes in at number 17. Coming in at number 16, one of my childhood favorites, and all-time favorites for that matter. I'm never gonna get over this game. Just its simplicity, its charm, its beauty, its childlike innocence. It doesn't get much better than this. And I featured this on a couple of my videos. I did a walkthrough, and I also talked about this as, a game that defined the Sega Genesis. And really, I think so, because when I think of the Sega Genesis, it just goes hand in hand with this game. Like peanut butter and jelly. Let's get some little gameplay going here. Just look at this stage. And I've talked about this before, but just how incredibly innovative, being able to move that little wheel and it changes the difficulty. Just the little fine touches like that are what make this game so special, because it's so well done, designed, so creative. It's almost like, the adults that did this are still children in their hearts. They know what children like. At least big children like me. But yeah, just the music, the charm, the simplicity, the controls. Anybody can pick up and play this game. Honestly, you don't even have to be a gamer. This game is just so charming, so beautiful, so simple. And I'm not gonna lie to you, especially in a day and age where everything's online and games have become pretty complex, there's nothing complex about this game. It's just pick up and play, pick up with your kids, and have a dandy time. Have a dandy time, Don't worry about a care in the world. The levels are incredible. I'm not going to capture every single level. I just kind of wanted to talk about it briefly because there are other games on my list that I don't want to get to. But yeah, this game, absolutely one of my favorites on the Sega Genesis. And it will always be cemented in my heart as one of the greats on the Sega Genesis. Let's check out some of the music here. And gameplay, of course. Did you see what I did right there? How I bounced off the guy's head and then I threw an apple at the other guy? I mean, don't let it fool you. Even though the gameplay is simple, it's still incredibly effective. It's still incredibly fun. It's still, look, I just hit that bird. You see that? So it's like, yes, the gameplay is simple, but there's also a lot of fun to be had. It's incredibly well designed. For its simplicity, it's actually extremely well designed. Oh, I hardly ever get hit by that apple. But yeah, guys, Castle of Illusion, in my opinion, comes in at number 16, and it deserves every bit of it. On the 15th spot is a game. To be able to beat Castle of Illusion tells you how good this game is. Legendary, and obviously inspired by Indiana Jones, and I would even say that because DuckTales came out before this, there's a bit of inspiration in that too. Because it's Donald Duck rather than Scrooge McDuck, and he goes on this world adventure where you're finding treasure, all these cool places that you visit like Mexico. You go to the US, obviously. You go all over the world, and it is fantastic. My goodness, guys, this game, to be able to beat Castle of Illusion tells you a lot. So yeah, it's pretty basic in story. There you go, Duckburg. I said the US. I meant, well, it is the US. I guess Duckburg would be Los Angeles, or yeah, more than likely Los Angeles. You get to go to Mexico, you get to go to Transylvania, and what's really cool about it is you get to pick wherever you want to go. But obviously, even though you can, the game does it's pretty linear as far as which one you have to tackle first, because in order to go further in the game, you have to go in a certain sequence, an order. And it's up to you to figure that order out. It's up to you. So it's an adventure game, guys. Beautiful, phenomenal gameplay, phenomenal big graphics, big huge sprites. Look at Donald, man. He looks huge. And one of the things that I've always appreciated about this game, look at the background. It does kind of look like LA. That's so cool. Or Burbank, something like that. What's really cool about this game, I love this sound when you climb. If you get so many of these peppers, he goes quackers, man. This guy loses his cool. Yeah, but I think just like the graphics, just the simplicity, you do have a plunger that you can shoot. It's like a gun plunger, and it's so incredibly unique. I haven't seen many games really utilize that. You can shoot, I talked about, Ghosts and Goblins earlier, being able to shoot, you can't, diagonally. On this one, you can't shoot down, but you can shoot forward, you can shoot up. Incredible. You go on an awesome adventure. I mean, so I'm gonna call my my nephews to come pick me up here. I mean, guys, what an incredible game. And as you continue to play the game, you continue to unlock like new plunger. Like I remember there's a different kind of plunger that will allow you to climb walls. Look at this, we're in Mexico, and it's so incredibly, I think the graphics hold up very, very well, especially for this generation, 16-bit of gaming. The music is fantastic. You can also slide. So as great as Castle of Illusion is, I picked this game higher because of its incredible gameplay. It's actually got even deeper gameplay. I know I praised Castle of Illusion for simplicity. This game, while still being simple, it does enough enhancements where it definitely has the edge over Castle of Illusion. This is an incredible adventure game. I highly recommend it for any of you that haven't played it. And for me, absolutely comes in as one of my favorite games in the Sega Genesis of all time. That's right. Coming in at number 14 is a game that I'm always gonna love. A lot of people tend to compare this game to the Super Nintendo version, and I recently did kind of like a review on my channel comparing both. I think it is a fair comparison because they're pretty much obviously very similar games, but at the same time quite different. In the sense that the Super Nintendo tends to have better graphics, more going on, more enemies. I think more levels. And this game, in exchange for having more levels, it has longer levels. So it's kind of a little bit of a trade-off. As a kid, I was just happy to get this game on Sega Genesis. The one thing, where I feel like the Genesis excels, and it's definitely better in my opinion than the Super Nintendo, is its gameplay. The gameplay is second to none, man. I think the Genesis has an advantage when it comes to that, and it could have just been the programming. I can't put my finger on it. Why? The Super Nintendo, the issue that I had is that some of the enemies, see how like the enemy, the way they attack you, it's different on this game than compared to the Super Nintendo. If you ever played both of them, you'll see what I'm talking about. The other thing that I really like that this game does very well is the dash attack. You can just press the C button to dash, and the Super Nintendo, it was never assigned to a button, and it's kind of funny because you have all these buttons, but they couldn't assign a button to the dash attack. That was a big bummer. So I feel like the gameplay for sure goes onto the Sega Genesis. Oh, also the sounds, the music of the Genesis one is stellar. One of the greatest soundtracks, in my opinion, to this in the Sega Genesis library. Let's check out some of that music and gameplay. But yeah, guys, Hyperstone Heist for me is just a better polished game than the Super Nintendo one, and I know that's extremely controversial, but I tend to have a lot more fun with this one, even though it's lacking a lot of the features that the Super Nintendo one has. In a lot of ways, the Super Nintendo one objectively is superior, but I just tend to have more fun with this one. And I know some of you guys, oh, because this is what you grew up with, and quite so, that could be it, but I think objectively speaking, they play a lot different, and I do prefer the way this one plays over the Super Nintendo. But let me know in the comment section why I'm wrong and why you're right. On the 13th spot is one of the great fighting games on the Sega Genesis that really displays the power or the strong points and the weak points at the same time of the Genesis hardware. Of course, I'm talking about Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. This is the ultimate, you could argue the ultimate version during this time period that you could play at home. Now, while the graphics are a little dithered, and you have to kind of forgive that, and there are some imperfections, do not get it twisted. This version is incredible. I find myself, there's a couple of games that I find myself craving to play every once in a while. Now, I will say, if you're going to play this, please do yourself a favor. Don't do what I'm doing right now. Play with the 6-button controllers. I might get beat up just because of that reason right now, just to capture this gameplay. But nevertheless, guys, this game is incredible. Okay, there's the block right there. I mean, the graphics aren't even that bad, to be honest with you. It's there's some dithering depending on the stage that you're at. This one's not bad at all, but it just kind of varies, you know. But where this game really excels is the fluidity of the gameplay. Dare I say, this is one of the best versions of Ultimate Mortal Kombat. I would actually give this game similar to a lot of the games on my list that are available both on Super Nintendo and Genesis. I think Super Nintendo has it beat in many categories, but never on gameplay. You can, more often than not, the Genesis would never fail you on gameplay. This game is another great example of that, and why this comes in at 13. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, one of my all-time favorites. Love it for sure. Super Street Fighter 2 for the Sega Genesis is a game I quite often find myself thinking about. Similar to Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, similar to pretty much everything on my list here. Guys, the Genesis, more often than not, would never let you down when it came to gameplay. Yeah, you know, some of the sounds are horrible, and I admit it, they're not great. They're pretty butchered. But the Genesis would never let you down when it comes to gameplay. And honestly, I think this is a fine looking game. You know, I am playing this with the 3-button controller. Do yourself a favor. Any of these fighting games, do not play them with a 3-button controller. You're going to give yourself a headache. But yeah, you know, although the sounds are somewhat lacking and the graphics, the sprites are certainly not as big as the arcade version, you know, if we're comparing this to the Super Nintendo, more often than not, you know, the Genesis would edge it out when it came to gameplay. This is another great example. This one, Hyperstone Heist, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, Genesis just had you covered when it came to gameplay, you know, and I know I might sound like a fanboy. I'm just being completely honest with you. It's just an honest opinion here. It's not even an opinion. It's kind of an objective truth. Just talk to anyone that's being honest with themselves. You know, Genesis would never let you down. Now, so the sounds are a little bit lacking, you know. But although this one does have another advantage of the Super Nintendo, the announcer actually says fight, and on the Super Nintendo he doesn't. Yeah, but this game, the colors, this is another reason why I prefer this over Championship Edition. The addition of the 4 new playable characters, and also just the colorful graphics, man. I've always loved that about this game. I've always loved the colorful graphics. It's so beautiful, and I think this game did come in at a whopping 40 meg. Yeah, guys, Ultimate Super Street Fighter 2 for the Sega Genesis is my favorite fighting game on the Genesis. And it just doesn't get better than this. This is my favorite fighting game on the Sega Genesis of all time. Coming in at number 11 is Contra Hardcore. Are you looking for a game that's going to make you pull your hair off and have absolutely no hair left in your head? Contra Hardcore has you covered. It is difficult to the core, but awesome at the same time. High suspense, high action. You know, it's going to require like memory skills. It's going to require reflex skills, skill in general. And the cool thing about this game is that you have 4 playable characters. And they all play different, and they all have strengths and weaknesses. Mostly just you have to just figure how to play with that individual character. I like to pick Brownie just because he has adorable, cute little legs. Now, I did mention that it's high suspense, high action. Everything's quick. You know, I mean, it is amazing, guys. A run and gun, you know? One of the OGs when it comes to running gunning. Now, like I said, every single character plays different. They all have the slide, though. They can all slide, which is really cool. And, I mean, really, it's just the gameplay that's stellar in this game. Oh, my gosh. I just died. And you do have different weapons at the very top left. You have different weapons that you're able to use. I mean, this game is just incredible. It's fast-paced. You know, this is the kind of game I love playing. Oh, that was quick. I did quick work of them. And brilliant graphics. You know, music too. I like the music. This Brownie, because like I said, they all play different. They all have the slide. Brownie actually has a double jump, which is really cool. But like I said, you know, that actually adds to the replay value. The fact that you have 4 playable characters and they all play differently is amazing. The slide, you know, it's a brutally hard game. Make no mistake about it, but it's absolutely one of my favorites. Graphics. The other thing that I want to mention, music, fantastic. The other thing I want to mention is that this game has multiple endings. Depending on what decisions you make during the game, after you beat bosses, you'll have different outcomes of the story. Guys, Contra Hardcore is one of the greatest games on the Sega Genesis library, and honestly, one of my favorite, if not my favorite Contra game of all time. And now it's time for the top 10. Let's get a drum roll for the number 10 spot. A game that honestly, I know about this game because of Mark from Classic Game Room. He just raves about this game as one of his favorite games of all time. And how does it hold up for Omiglio? Well, it made my 10th spot. And the only reason it doesn't score even better or, you know, have a better ranking is because I'm not that familiar with this game. But you cannot deny greatness. You know, I know that what's before me is an absolutely great game. Which I do plan on beating hopefully later on this year. I might even do a walkthrough on YouTube, who knows. But yeah, you cannot deny greatness. You know, this one and Lightning Force, what we got here in the US is called Lightning Force. 2 of the greatest shoot 'em ups on the Sega Genesis. You could argue which one's better. I tend to lean towards this one. I just love the overall look of it, the art direction. The music is grade A. I mean, they really knew how to use the Sega Genesis sound chip to its maximum potential. And that's really what it came down to usually. It was basically like the developers, whether or not they knew how to use the sound chip. But guys, speaking of which, let's just check out some of that beautiful music. And yeah, Musha, number 10. Let's check out the music. How does this not make your top 10 on the Sega Genesis? I mean, this game is high action, fast-paced, beautiful graphics, beautiful music, great weapons. I love the weapons here. And again, the only reason it doesn't score better is because I'm not that familiar with this game. I never beat this game before. But my goodness, you know, I might have to do an updated version of my top 20 because I'm having too much fun playing this right now, just capturing footage. Yeah, this game is on a whole different level. I'm not much of a shooter, and I'm having a blast playing this. And it goes to show how good this game actually is, especially after, yeah guys, Musha for the Sega Genesis, one of the all-time greats. Coming in at number 9 is a game that's always going to be dear to my heart. Yes, it's hard, and I get it. You know, for kids, this was probably too hard for kids, but my goodness, it's still a wonderful game. And you know, I think that's what appealed to me is a good balance of difficulty. While I do think this game, and I do acknowledge that it is a difficult game, with a little bit of practice, you will be good at this. Trust me. Take it from your friend Omiglio. Anyone can be good at this. I did feature this recently on one of the Sega, on a video that I made on the games that define the Sega Genesis. And this game, oh my goodness, why do I love it so much? Well, it's because it's like more than simply a video game. I know that I recently said that this game I prefer it over the Super Nintendo, and basically to hit home, to just finish that topic, I'll say this. What separates them is that this game truly feels like you're playing the cartoon, where the one for the Super Nintendo feels like you're playing a video game. It feels like it's nothing wrong with that, right? It is, they're both video games after all, but this game just does more with the animations, with the graphics, with the colors. Yeah, you could argue the Super Nintendo has more vibrant colors, but this one still has nice looking visuals and nice colors overall, in my opinion. You know, this is really, like, it comes down to the gameplay. This game has gameplay that's so phenomenal. You know, being able to use your sword, and then, you know, I know that, like, I talked about the difficulty, and that's one of the things that turns people off. One thing you have to realize, look, I'll give you a little pointer right here, is that if you use your sword and you attack down at the enemy, you're always gonna hit them. Because I know that if you go toe-to-toe with them like this, see how it's like they can get the better of you? Well, in order to avoid that, just duck and hit. Like, I mean, I still got the better of them because I have a lot of practice in this game, but little things like that, you know, understanding the gameplay and how phenomenal it actually is. I know some people will beg to differ with that. No, this game has really stellar gameplay. It's just more on the challenging side, and I think that's what turns off a lot of people. And they tend to prefer the Super Nintendo because that one is a easier game to play, you know. But I think the gameplay is where it's at, and I think this game has pretty much that one beat by a landslide. The animations, the graphics, the music, this is all grade 8 stuff. And really, when I think about the greats on the Sega Genesis, you have to consider this game because it brings so much to the table. Aladdin for the Sega Genesis, one of my all-time greats, one of my favorite games of all time, and I will always love and cherish this game. And taking the 8th spot is another Konami game, another gem on the Sega Genesis. You know, we got really like the trio of gems on the Sega Genesis: Rocket Knight Adventures, Castlevania Bloodlines, and Contra Hardcore. This game, the graphics, the animation, the gameplay is second to none, man. This game is, I remember as a kid, I never actually owned this game as a kid, but I remember seeing pictures of it on magazines, and I remember being blown away. But one of the things that's actually a little bit underrated about this game is its phenomenal soundtrack. Matter of fact, why don't we go ahead and check that out right now. You can also charge up your rocket here, and that's a big part of the game. You know, I talked about gameplay. Yeah, this game, when it comes to the gameplay, it's second to none, man. This game is so incredibly good. I've never actually beaten this game, but it's on my to-do list, similar to Musha. But it's just undeniable how good this game is with the animations, the colors, the graphics, you know, the parallax scrolling. It's one of the greats on the Sega Genesis. You have to consider this your top 10 if you're a Sega Genesis fan like I am. My goodness, the music, the graphics, the animations, the story. It is such an epic adventure. And for me, honestly, there's few games that are just better than this one. And that's why it comes in at number 8. Coming in at number 7 is an all-time classic, a Castlevania Legend game. You know, and the music was composed by a woman by the name of Michiru Yamane. who's a female Japanese composer. Oh my goodness. This game is the total package. It really is. Graphics, music, animations. You can play as 2 different characters, so it gives you a little bit of a variety, good replay value. I always pick John Morris because I'm an American, and that's how we do things here in America. I like to whip them good. But yeah, guys, this game is absolutely amazing. One of my favorites on the Sega Genesis, and it has this story that you're going through Europe. This one is a little bit different in terms of the context. You're actually in Europe and you're trying to find Dracula, as per usual you're trying to do in Castlevania games. Why do I like this game so much? The music, I already mentioned the Japanese composer, female, might I add. This game has just phenomenal gameplay. You can actually hit while you're moving up. You can only do it while you're with John Morris while you're going up. The other character plays quite different, so you have to get used to him as well. Look at this. Let's check out the music before I go any further. This game is just stellar when it comes to the music. Let's check it out. But yeah, guys, as far as the gameplay, I mean, it has more of a traditional Castlevania feel if you're into Castlevania. But what I like about this one is that it has little subtle enhancements, like being able to hit the enemy while you're, and you actually grab onto stuff like this. See, you can use it as a rope, which later on in the game will be very useful. I mean, this game it's like subtle enhancements compared to like the original one, but it has the feel of the original one without going overboard. Not that I'm saying Super Castlevania went overboard. That certainly has its own fan base and its own feel. But this game is a little more traditional, a little more basic, but subtle enhancements. This game, if you're like a purist and you love Castlevania games, I don't know what you're waiting for. This game has you covered. It's an absolute legend. A game that I absolutely love. You have some amazing boss fights, which we're about to get to right now. But again, look at those sounds. Seriously, some of the best music on the Sega Genesis. So you also have sub weapons, as just like any Castlevania game, and I'm gonna go ahead and take advantage of that right now. Look at that, I just took care of them right off the bat. It's a gory, legendary game, beautiful graphics, colorful graphics. I've always been a fan of just the aesthetics of this game. Castlevania Bloodlines, if it doesn't make your top 5, or in my case, top 7, there's something wrong with you. Taking the number 6 spot is a game made by Treasure. During this time, Treasure was on absolute fire. They made this one. They made a really good, you won't believe me, a really good Ronald McDonald video game. I mean, they were just on fire, and this is perhaps their finest work. Although Ronald McDonald, don't sleep on that game. That game is amazing. Gunstar Heroes, why does it make the number 6 spot? It's just incredible gameplay. Fast-paced, a lot of action, and you get to pick, which weapon you want to start off with. So I'm gonna go with this fire one, and I'm gonna go ahead and select. You can also select the stage you want to start on. I'm gonna go with this. It looks like a dude. I'm not sure who that enemy is, but it just got really good animations, really good graphics, fast-paced. Again, the Genesis one will never let you down when it comes to that blast processing, fast-paced action. This game has you covered. Now, this game is also 2 players. You can play this game with 2 players, and that is absolutely amazing. Notice how I have 2 weapons, and I can switch between 2, which is really, really awesome. And again, this game is a 2-player action, fast-paced. You cannot go wrong with this game. I just think it's such a really good game, and one of the best games on the Sega Genesis, just because of its design. And again, Treasure was on absolute fire when this game came out. They were truly showing their capabilities as a developer, And in my opinion, some of the finest work the Genesis has ever seen. This game is a fine example of that. You know, it's got remarkable gameplay, fast action. You know, it's a challenging game. It's not easy by any means, but it is so rewarding and fun, as pretty much any great video game would have, right? It's got to have a good challenge, but it's also got to be rewarding. This game is all of that. And if you play it with a friend, you're in for a real treat. You also have a slide similar to Contra Hardcore. You know, you have a slide, and it's just fast-paced, fast action. There's hardly any slowdown. I mean, this game is just, it's the epitome of what Genesis games could do. But you have amazing boss battles, great graphics. I mean, and you get to pick, it's kind of a little bit of a strategy, because you get to pick which kind of weapons you want to use. Gunstar Heroes on the Sega Genesis, absolutely one of the greats, and in my book, coming in at number 6. Now it's time for the top 5, and coming in at number 5 is a true RPG heavyweight. The funny thing about RPGs is that I didn't really play them growing up. If you look at some of my walkthroughs, I did walkthroughs for like Double Dragon for the Master System and Nintendo. I was more of a beat 'em up kid. I liked those kind of games as a kid. I didn't get into like RPGs until later in life. And let me just say something. I'm happy that I did, because these games are remarkable. I mean, these games just have such charm, such beautiful music, which I will check out in just a second. But it's like story driven, and I've always loved the art. Out of all the Phantasy Stars for the Sega Genesis, this one has my heart when it comes to the art direction, because it has more of a comic book style, you know, and it has such a great story, guys, and adventure. I don't want to ruin it for you. I don't want to tell you what the story is about, but let me just say that it's pretty memorable, and it pretty much puts a different games in the series together. It pieces it all together. You know, if you play any good RPG game, it has to have good music, right? But yeah, guys, let's check. Speaking of music, let's check out some of the music right now. Music, that soundtrack, and essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to stop these monsters, very similar to like part 2. You know, it's nothing different, similar, that you hear about this outbreak of monsters, and you're supposed to investigate what's happening, right? And in your adventure, you know, you find other people that is going to join your party. Sometimes they leave your party, but it is just such a well done game, well paced. So yeah, as I'm making my way through this creepy place, we're about to get into our first fight here. You find treasure and stuff that's going to help you heal throughout your battles, because these kind of games, really what it's all about is endurance. See, there's my first combat fight, and you get to select how you want to go about fighting them. You have the command, the macro. Macro, I believe, is like these pre-assigned, you know, movements that you want to do, or moves that you want to do. So it's like a little bit of strategy involved. You have your standard attack. This one is your, basically like, it's kind of like magic. And then this one is like your special. Everyone has a different special, your item, and then you can always just, you can always defend if you wanted to. I'm just going to have them all attack just so you can get a feel of what they all look like. But as you continue to play the game and you go to new towns, you get to level up your characters. This game's, you know, like a traditional JRPG, all about leveling up. This game is so much fun, guys, with the good. It's just, the story's gonna keep you captivated, I promise you. You know, and then just leveling up your character, finding the right items, it's gonna keep you captivated. The art direction, the style, the music, it's all grade A. Phantasy Star 4, absolutely top 5 in my list, and an all-time great for the Sega Genesis. I think a lot of you are going to be shocked that I have this game placed at 4. And allow me to explain. In a lot of ways, this game is a masterpiece. It truly is the epitome of beat 'em ups. Stellar soundtrack by the legendary composer Yuzo Koshiro. Beautiful graphics, beautiful music. Why do I place it number 4? Well, because the other games, I just tend to have more fun. Now, if this was my 9-year-old self, I would place this as the best Genesis game of all time. But since then, it just so happens that I've gotten into other games, most notably, RPGs. Oh my gosh, that soundtrack. It's hard to deny. This game has to, at the very least, make your top 5, right? But why does this game rank at number 4? Let's just focus on the positive here. Why does it rank at number 4? Man, it's truly one of the best beat 'em ups of all time. You're able to have so many different types of attacks. You have your standard combo. You can do it like a regular jump kick straight in the air. You can jump towards them. You can knee them. Look at that. I just grabbed them and I did like a somersault. After grabbing them, you can toss them. It has such deep and satisfying gameplay. When you're talking about beat 'em ups, it just simply does not get better. Well, except for one little thing I want to add, and I'm just being completely transparent with you. I do prefer the gameplay on Streets of Rage 3 over Part 2. I'm just being honest with you. It tends to be quicker, and it's just more satisfying to me. Unfortunately, that game, especially the American version, is a little bit, it's a lot of bit difficult. So it lost a lot of points on that. That's why I couldn't, as an overall package, I think this is just a masterpiece. But I do, and I have to be very clear about this, I do prefer the gameplay on Streets of Rage 3. I think if that game were tweaked a little bit, it would be the ultimate Streets of Rage. But for the overall package, for what it is, this game is still a masterpiece. And speaking of masterpieces, let's get some of that gameplay and music with Mr. Yuzo Koshiro. I just think as an overall package, this is as close to a masterpiece for a 16-bit beat 'em up. I mean, they were trying to compete with Final Fight, but they blew Final Fight out the water. This game is darn near a masterpiece and absolutely one of my favorites of all time on the Sega Genesis. Taking the number 3 spot is a game that I absolutely love. Mega Man The Wily Wars. Now, why is this game so special to me? First of all, let me just say what Mega Man The Wily Wars is. It's basically Mega Man 1, 2, and 3 for the NES, but updated with 16-bit graphics for the Sega Genesis. Think of something like Super Mario Bros. All-Stars that came out for the Super Nintendo. Now, this game is far from perfect, and I will admit that. It's not perfect, especially if you go back and play the original Mega Man games. But why? So then why is this game so special to me? It's special to me simply because it's the game that really got me into Mega Man series. I'm not nostalgic for Mega Man games. I didn't play them growing up as a kid. I had an NES, but I didn't really play Mega Man games as a kid. And I didn't really start getting traction for Mega Man until I played Mega Man The Wily Wars, believe it or not. It was so appealing to me, just thinking about playing these Mega Man games, but in a 16-bit fashion, that was just always appealing to me. One thing this game has it has a lot of things in my opinion that are actually better, dare I say, than the original Nintendo ones. I know I'm going to tick off a lot of OG Mega Man fans for saying that, but again, I have no nostalgia. This is just me as an adult talking. What I love about this game is that it fully takes advantage of the Sega Genesis 3-button layout. So for example, the A button could be assigned. I don't have any weapons that I've got right now. So basically what you do is you defeat a robot master, and then you take their ability and it will show up right there on that screen right there, the item screen. And then you have your jump, and then the other button could be assigned for shooting. So I have B for shooting, A for your items, and C for jumping. It has a perfect format for Mega Man games. Yeah, but this game, Mega Man The Wily Wars, totally is what got me into Mega Man games. And I have always appreciated the update of graphics. I've always thought they look beautiful. Like you have this parallax scrolling in the background right there. The concept of being able to go through a course, right? Like every level is different. Every robot master has their own level layout, like their own challenges. And by all means, every single level is difficult. There's like spikes right there on the floor, right? There's more spikes over here. Before you get to fight the boss of that stage, that robot master, you know, you have to go through these, call it obstacle course. It's like their stage, and there's a bunch of hazards, you know, there's a bunch of challenges. We're about to fight our first boss here, and after you beat the boss, you will gain their ability. That's the basic format of Mega Man games, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I love the updated 16-bit graphics. There, down he goes. There, and now I'm gonna have his ability. I'm gonna be able to shoot bombs, or throw bombs, actually. Mega Man The Wily Wars, absolutely one of my favorite games on the Sega Genesis, and games period. I love Mega Man The Wily Wars. That's why it comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 as greatest Sega Genesis game of all time is none other than the great, the only, the mighty Shinobi 3 Return of the Ninja Master. Now, why is this game so great, and why do I pick it even better than like Shadow Dancer or The Revenge of Shinobi? It really comes down to the gameplay. This game does enhancements that really elevate it to a whole different level. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You have that. You can now hit them with your sword. You know, I kind of lost momentum there, but you get the point. It is incredible with the gameplay, guys. It's honestly one of the greatest game-playing games I've ever played, especially when it comes to the Sega Genesis. It's just few games can compete with this, you know, like few games at all can compete with it with the gameplay. I'm playing a little sloppy because I haven't played this in a while. You can also kick, you know, you have in close combat, just like the original Shinobi, you can actually get them with your sword or something like that. And I don't mean that one that I'm using. That's more like a rush attack. I mean, this game, the gameplay is second to none. It's second to none. And I do think, and I was always the biggest Revenge of Shinobi fan. And I remember hearing about this game from one of my friends, you know, growing up. And I remember thinking, there's no way it's better than Revenge of Shinobi. But guys, look at it for yourself. Look how fast-paced it is. How incredibly well-designed it is. The graphics are incredible. And of course, you know, you're going to have, like I said, the gameplay is where it's at. It just takes it to a whole different level. You have one more guy to go. I'm gonna get rid of him, do quick work of him right now, just like I've been doing his pals. Just like that. See, this guy's a little harder because the other guys were easier. Nevertheless, down he goes. It takes the basic format of a Shinobi game, but it amplifies it, you know? You could do so much. The music is fantastic in this game. Let me be quiet and you guys can see what I'm talking about. And of course, now we have wall jumping, which is incredible, kind of like Ninja Gaiden style. This is the greatest game, Shinobi game, that has ever been made for the Sega Genesis. And quite frankly, it could be on your top list. I would put this against anything during the 16-bit era of gaming. Alright guys, Shinobi 3, absolutely one of the greatest games, and in fact comes in at number 2. Let's get a drum roll for the greatest game, the single greatest game in the history of Sega Genesis. Yup, Sonic 3. It's undeniable. Oh look, one of the cool things about this game, if anything, it has save states. How cool is that? They actually thought about that. You know, I'm gonna go with the new one, that way you guys can check out some of the early gameplay here. This opening scene is legendary, and I'm gonna break it down, guys, the best that I can. What makes Sonic 3 the greatest video game on the Sega Genesis? Look at this opening scene. I'm gonna be quiet so we can check out some of those tunes. Look at Knuckles. Guys, one thing, and I have to admit, right, I've never beat this game, although similar to Musha, it's on my to-do list. And but again, similar to Musha, it's undeniable. The greatness is undeniable. It's like similar to like Revenge of Shinobi and you know, Shinobi 3. I grew up loving Sonic 2. You know, I thought as great as Sonic 1 was, I felt that Sonic 2 was even better, right? Most of us do. And I never really thought much of Part 3 until recently when I picked this, I had to make this list, and I had to objectively think about the greatest Sonic games that have ever been made. And I came to the conclusion that, yeah, I've never been good at that stage, by the way. I really have to work on that. I came to the conclusion that this is one of the finest video games, especially platformers, not only for the Sega Genesis, one of the greatest platformers ever made. You know what I mean? This game is absolutely incredible, guys. Absolutely incredible. Great graphics. One thing that I've noted, and early on, you know, because I was a big Sonic 2 guy, that I hated about Sonic 3 is that you could tell how he looks different. And to me, he always used to look goofy. But the more I thought about it, and I put myself into the shoes of the developers, I realized what they did was brilliant, because this was a time period too, you have to consider, where gaming was going from 2D to 3D. I think, and this is my honest take on this, the reason Sonic looks different, he looks more like a 3D. They're trying to go for more a 3D, just like that. Look at that. They're going more for a 3D look as compared to like Part 1 and Part 2 where he looks two-dimensional. On this one, you can see more of his face, like more round. You can see more of his overall face, similar to Tails. What they were doing here, guys, the innovation, the graphics, the gameplay, the phenomenal gameplay is second to none. This is the epitome of Sonic games. The platforming, and I'm not even touching the surface because I'm not one that's qualified. Like, I've never beat this game, but again, the greatness is undeniable. It is, look, this right here, this power-up is so amazing. I love that. You didn't have that before. You have enhancements, right? As many games on my list that I love, that I think are better than previous versions or previous games, like Crackshot. You know, they came into the 15th spot, and it's better than Castle Evolution. Why? Crackshot just enhances the gameplay. It's better. This game is objectively better than any Sonic game. Music is stellar. And of course, as a lot of you guys might or might not know, rumor has it that Michael Jackson was involved directly with the music in this game, which it appears to be true. The music is phenomenal, guys. The graphics, you know, how they were really trying to give you a 3D look on a 2D game engine, essentially. You know, the Sega Genesis was always a 2D engine, you know? But they're really trying to give you a 3D look because this was where the games were headed at this time, you know? You know, I'm not even touching the surface on how great this game is. It's undeniable. When we look back at the history of the Sega Genesis, you have to consider Sonic 3. In my opinion, it is, without a shadow of a doubt, the greatest Sega Genesis game that has ever been created. And that, guys, is the bottom line, because Omi says so. No, that, guys, is going to conclude my videos here. I hope you guys enjoyed Omi's top 20 Sega Genesis games of all time. I'm actually having a pretty good run here. I normally never do this good. But let me know, guys, in the comment section, which was your favorite games, you know? Which ones did I leave out? You know, did I get it wrong? Is Sonic 2 better than Sonic 3? I don't think so, but if you think so, let me know in the comment section. And also, let me know, you know, which games you have nostalgia for, you know? Sonic 3, I don't have nostalgia for it. You know, this is just me being objective about it and being honest. Giving it an honest take, giving it its honest due. And this game is absolutely legendary. Hey, I've never actually gotten all these little circles. This might be a first for me. I did it! I did it! I've never done that. I kid you guys not. I'm serious. I never got a gem before. I'm not good at that stage. Without a doubt, this is the greatest Genesis game of all time. And please let me know in the comment section what you think about it. As always, guys, he wants me to go. Like, Sonic is pissed off. I'm gonna have to go right now also. This is gonna conclude my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, I will catch you absolutely on the next vid.